Okay. Let me pull up the email I sent because that had some of the things we needed to talk about. Or you have it up already, you said, Paul? No? Let me pull it up real quick.
Next year's dates and times, current renewing members, potential new members, and maybe Steve's gonna join us.
Yeah, I didn't hear back from Steve, so I don't think he is. But I can try to have him for our December meeting because I spoke with him and he said he definitely wanted to meet with us and talk with us.
Good.
And Patty is on the phone and she can hear us, but we can't hear her.
Oh. Okay. Hi,
She
Patty.
just sent me an email. Hi, Patty.
Hi.
There we go. We hear you.
Oh, we heard you.
Okay. My phone said I was muted, but apparently it's opposite day. So sorry about that. I'm here. I'm just by phone. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you, Sarah. Sorry.
You're welcome. And no, Paul's not blurry anymore. So that's
Yeah.
good. Okay, well, for our dates, they're the dates we went over last time. They're still the first or the okay. So John said he would look into if we could meet at the Leaf Education Building at Frontier Park, because I asked about could we meet at City Hall and Council Chambers after 4:30, but they said they couldn't have the security guards stay on. And so I would personally have to be responsible for everybody, which I wouldn't have a problem with the committee members, but since the meetings are open to the public and public could come in, I didn't feel that that was the best choice. So they said we could, and so I talked with everybody here and the meetings can be held in an alternate location. They don't have to be in council chambers. We just have to be able to record them. I don't think they'll be able to be recorded live, but we can record the meetings and then post them is what we'll end up doing. And I think that's what we're also doing today. We're recording the meeting and then they'll post a link to the recording. So since that was the case, John, the PLUA, the Pennsylvania Lake Erie Watershed Association, already meets there at the Leaf Building on the first Tuesday of every month at 3:30 to 5. So we thought, and so Leaf can't rent out the building that night. So we thought it'd be appropriate to have our meeting the same night at 5:30. And then that way Leaf doesn't lose money from not renting out the building 2 nights, because sometimes they rent the building out. So if we have our urban forest meetings, we switch to the first Tuesday of the month and then have them at 5:30 p.m. is what we thought would be best. So Paul and Patty, would you still be able to make those times?
I would.
Patty's gone silent again.
No, I'm here. Yes, that would be fine.
Okay. Well, then those are the okay. Then
John.
That's the plan then.
yeah, then that'll be good. And then we can stay there. Like we have it for an hour, but if we go longer than that, there's nothing else booked the rest of the evening. So we can stay as, sometimes we run past an hour with our meetings. And if people want, we could always bring snacks if we feel we're going to be faint with hunger during that time.
All right. So our first meeting then would be the first Tuesday of December then? Is that what we're saying?
It wouldn't start till January.
January. Okay, January. Okay.
And so it'd be January 2nd, which is very early, and then the address for the Leaf building, it's 1501 West 6th. If you want an address to put it in Google but I'm sure you both know where Frontier Park is in the building, it's off the 6th Street side.
Okay. And the time again was 5:30, Sarah?
5:30.
5:30. Okay.
Yeah, because PLUA, I can't get those people out of there right at 5 o'clock. They stand around to talk and stuff. So sometimes the meeting ends early, but a lot of times it doesn't. And so and then that way the tables are already set up and everything, because we have to to use the Leaf building, we have to set up our own tables and chairs and then put them away when we're done. So they'll already be set up from the Plua meeting and we just have to fold them up and take them down at the end of our meeting. But they're just plastic folding tables and plastic chairs. I think they're not really that heavy or anything.
Okay, good. That's a good location. It's smaller, well lit and easy to get to.
Yep.
Yeah, and the city plows the parking lot in the winter, and yeah, it has lights in the parking lot and stuff, so it'll be good. Okay, good. Then John, you were going to follow up with the Mark and Armando and some of the other folks as to if they still wanted to be a part of the committee.
No, Mark's good with it. Armando, I still haven't heard from him. I've sent him a couple of messages and an email. I don't know why he hasn't responded. I haven't run into him. So I did run by his studio actually that one day. Last time I saw, we talked about it, and it was closed when I went there. So I don't know what's up with Armando. Stephanie, on the other hand, is I think she's done. She doesn't want to stand for reappointment. So we need to replace her for sure.
And we still need to replace, there's supposed to be 7 of us, so we need to replace Jenny/Ginny also, right? So there's 7 folks.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm trying to write all this down while we're talking. Because I don't think we replaced them.
Yeah, and I did bring it up with Erin. She's not really interested in it in another meeting. I mean, she's a young mother, and she,
Yeah.
you know, Leaf is a part-time, is actually, even though she's the director now, is still a part-time job, and she's got another position as well, and kids. So
Yeah, well, thanks for asking her. That's right. I forgot she just had a baby too.
Yeah.
Paul or Patty, did you have a chance to think of anybody else who might be a good candidate that we could ask if they're interested in joining?
I don't have anybody off the top of my head, but I will definitely dive into looking for somebody.
I don't know if there was any
Ditto.
fellow master gardeners, Patty, who might be interested.
Yeah, let me think about that and I may approach them.
I wonder if that Molly Tarvin, the sustainability coordinator at Mercyhurst University, would be interested.
I don't know. I wouldn't
It
object.
would be good to bring in somebody different.
Yeah, she's from a university and she's
And she's young.
younger. I can ask her.
Yeah, we could ask her. And she announced the other day that they're just starting a new major in sustainability studies. So I don't know. She might decline. So,
Yeah,
but-
she gave a tour of the greenhouse last week too, I think, but I wasn't able to go. But so
Yeah,
she might be
I went
interested.
to that. I went up to that. It's a nice little greenhouse.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt to ask. We can ask her. And then I'll have to think. I haven't really tried thinking about it recently. I'll have to think about it if there's somebody else. Let's all try to think, because we need 3 people, right?
Yep.
Because yeah. Well, we don't know. We need at least 2 and possibly 1 for Armando. Oh, here's
Well, yeah, that's right.
Armando just sent an email. He
Oh.
said he can't make it, but we are traveling for the holiday. I'll ask him if he still wants to be on the committee next year.
Okay.
All right, I just sent him that email. We'll see if he responds while he's traveling. Because there's some master watershed stewards and they have with Amber And Amber Stillwell, for those of you who aren't familiar with the Master Watershed Steward Program, it's a county extension program, just like similar to the Master Gardeners, but they're focused on watersheds and doing stream monitoring and projects oriented around water quality. But they do native plantings and tree seedling sales and giveaways, like, and have done some tree planting projects. So maybe one of those new Master Watershed coordinators would be interested in joining the group.
Possibly.
Or maybe Amber. She has a lot going on herself, but I'll ask Amber too.
Yeah. Does she live in the city?
She does. She lives on the west side,
Okay, good.
but I believe it's still within the city limits.
Uh-huh.
Sam Mason does too, and she's a native gardener, but she was on another committee, but I don't, oh yeah, I think is she on the EAC? She was on the stormwater committee or the sewer committee, but she got off of that committee, but I think she just got on the EAC. So if they're already on one committee, they're not allowed to be on more than one committee.
Plus, she was complaining to me about being overscheduled last night.
Yeah. And you know who else lives in the city's Joseph Hudson?
Oh, yeah. Well, Joe, yeah, he would be good.
I can ask Joseph too.
Yeah.
And it's right near his house.
Yeah.
But he has a whole pack of kids. So he might not want to might not want to join a committee that's after hours, but he may, because it's right near, he lives near that neighborhood. He only lives a couple blocks away, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what was the other, so we'll do that. Let's everybody keep thinking of some people, because the mayor has to formally announce them or something once we decide, so that would be good. Otherwise, we can also, if we really needed to, we could re-announce and whole application process like open to the public, but that's time consuming and it will take longer to get some members. But that's always an option too, the way you all applied.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so
well, that covers your little agenda, except for Steve.
okay, well, Steve, I'll invite Steve to come to the December meeting. I told him when our meeting was, but I never sent him anything in writing
Okay.
until yesterday, so he might have forgot about it. But he hasn't replied to me, so he could also be traveling for the holidays this week, because he usually gets back to me right away.
Okay.
So he might be out of town or something. But he told me he was willing to help us write an urban forest plan, but he spoke with his supervisors and they felt that because the city of Erie is so big, that might be too large of a project for him to handle by himself. And so instead I asked him if he would be willing to talk with us about our priorities and like, I can't exactly remember what we decided, but it was something like helping us focus on because we have a lot of things we want to do. Like, we want to do an inventory, we want to make a plan, we want to work on Facebook, like we want to have our Arbor Day events, or like that. We have a lot of things that we want to do, but we're kind of a small committee and we're all volunteers. And so, well, you're all volunteers. And so he was willing to come and talk with us about like what, and give his recommendations on what we could accomplish and like where we could go for additional funding for some of the projects, and or how long it would take to do things, or bring in other resources, because there's other people who could help us with plans too. And he had a funding source. He said there's an additional funding for, I can't remember if it was for the inventory or doing a plan, but I think we could get the plan covered in-house, because Jackie through our planning department is also willing to work to help us write a plan, or to hire a contractor with some of our grant funding. And I personally think a plan would be better than the inventory for the first step, but I don't know what anybody else feels about that. And But I thought it would be nice for Steve to come in and talk to us. And then he could also talk to us about what other services he provides. And, some of you met him if you were at any of our Arbor Day event, at our Arbor Day event. I think he was at both Arbor Day events, wasn't he? Or maybe it was just 2 years ago. I think he was at both, but I can't remember where he was last year because we had multiple locations. So he is willing to come and talk to our group and assist us at some capacity, but he isn't going to be able to help us write the whole plan. I mean, but he could help us if we hired a contractor. He's still willing to be part of it,
Okay,
but he's just not able to take the whole thing on by himself.
all right.
So I'll let him know right away when the December meeting is, so he can try to come. And if not, he could come, I would assume, in January. But hopefully he can come for the December meeting.
Sarah, I'm in favor of doing an inventory first. I mean, making that step one of the plan to know what we have out there in the urban forest. And it might speed us along a little bit if we can get a contractor on that and just give them the parameters of what we're looking for. We can get a spark going. I don't know what everybody else feels.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the first step in most plans is to do an inventory, so I think you're right, Paul.
Yeah. The way I was thinking about it is the plan's more than just the inventory, though. The plan,
It is, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, it calls for so many other aspects of the plan besides the inventory. But I understand what you're saying. If we don't have the information of what trees are out there, then how can we make as good of a plan until we know what's out there?
Right.
So, I mean, there's an argument to do it either way. Or
Is it
like you said, even if we
possible-
go on, Patty.
I'm sorry, is it possible for us to determine how best we can get the inventory and we sort of begin working on that while you and Jackie are looking at how we can get a contractor and get that person set to do a plan, because that's still going to be several months out just to identify who's going to do it, how we're going to pay them, and then to have it written. But if we could also at the same time start working on how can we actually get the inventory done, is that possible?
Yeah, see, in my mind, we would kind of try to work on it, making the plan. And then, like John was saying, the first action item of the plan is to do an inventory and then modify the plan based on the results from the inventory. But yeah, I mean, or like you're saying, Patty, is just Jill just try to work on both at the same time? Is that sort of what you're saying?
Yeah, because, yeah, I think so, because both of them are going to be several months down the road. They do need to work together.
I think what John is saying,
And
he'd like us to be able to have a plan so we can say we have a plan, but really it's kind of like a pre-plan. It'd be like a plan to make the plan. You know,
Right.
so
I'd be happy
gathering the
Well-
inventory.
Yeah, I'd be
Right.
happy if we, if we could even do that, yes.
And I think that's what Steve said he'd be willing to help us, like to
Okay,
make our plan to how we're gonna make a plan, which would include the inventory. So I think you're right, Patty. We can be doing the inventory as part of, to try to get a big thorough plan, but in the meantime, have like a plan to make the plan of what we
Yeah,
need,
'cause
all
again,
the action steps to get a plan developed. Sorry, go on, Patty. I keep interrupting.
yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think we're all on the same page, is that we want to see something. Yes, it would be ideal to have a plan that we could take to our new city council members in January, February, and say, this is what the Urban Forest Committee has been working on. But the reality is we're not going to be able to get that done in the next 6 weeks. Neither can we get the inventory done. But if we could begin working on that process, and I think the people who are on this call are smart enough to sort of have a general idea of what those steps are. And it may not be a fancy dancy plan with lots of details, but if we have a general idea, the first thing is an inventory. That's going to be in the plan, but we've started working on it and doing this. And then the next thing is, education to whomever, the community, leaders in the community, those sorts of things. I think just if we can start moving, and if we have to adjust a little bit, then we'll adjust.
Yeah,
So Sarah, do we have information, like what information was gathered in the last inventory? Do we even have any of that? I mean, I have some ideas off the top of my head that we're gonna want to capture. And the first thing in my head is, where are the limits of the city? Just as a broad picture, and then
their Bird Drive
okay,
on the east side. It's the bayfront, the water on the north. The south side. Let me grab my map real quick.
and then we'd have to have some type of mapping in order for this inventory to take place to make sure we capture everything.
Well, that's what I'm kind of waiting on my end, because we have the GIS capabilities now, but I personally don't have them. So it's Grandview Boulevard on the south end, East and West Grandview Boulevard.
Okay,
And then some of the area around the zoo, Glenwood neighborhood, a little bit sticks past Grandview to that Bladen Road. I don't know. There's like a little, I don't know if my camera, see that this piece that jogs down,
yeah,
which is like where the golf course is in a small neighborhood. Otherwise, this is Grandview.
okay,
And then on the east side, like I said, it's I'm on the wrong side. It's Bird Drive and Franklin Avenue, because Bird
Okay.
Drive, and then on the west side it's Pittsburgh Avenue.
okay.
And so, I mean, I can send everybody a city map if you want, a digital version of the city map to show all the limits. And then as far as the tree inventory, in like 2007 or something, the county did an inventory of a couple of neighborhoods in the city, but there was never been a full-fledged city inventory. But I've been at the city for 19 years, and I have all of my records of every tree that I cut down and every tree I planted. But I don't have existing trees and species and their current health status,
Okay.
which to me is the big part of the inventory that we're missing. But having an inventory, even if we could just map out, because in GIS you can just import my Excel list and then map out like where have all the trees been cut down and where have all the trees been planted, and then overlay them, and like, are a bunch of trees planted in places where we like, did we cut a whole bunch of trees down in this neighborhood but only planted in these neighborhoods over here? Like, I think it'd be useful to know, like, where have we cut all the trees down, and then where have we planted trees, and do they overlap, or are there entire neighborhoods that are missing? Because there's whole neighborhoods in like the southern end of the city that don't have trees for blocks and blocks and blocks. And so those neighborhoods need to be targeted for having trees planted, and like, I think that an inventory should suggest things like every single spot that can support a tall growing tree should have a tall growing tree, opposed to a short variety.
Right.
So to try to encourage the biggest tree possible for every site, because there's so many sites in the city that are limited by the overhead utility lines, that you can't plant tall trees, or the space in the sidewalk so small it's not big enough for a big tree to grow there. And so all of that kind of information is what we don't have. Like, it's the details.
Okay.
But at least we could map out a general, where have we cut trees down, where have we planted trees? And it's not complete. I mean, you can see the stacks of papers behind me. I have stacks and stacks of tree notes that aren't even entered in my computer, but I have a lot is entered in. Like, we've planted, I think, like 1,700 trees. And so that's pretty cool.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yes, I love the layer issue, like a Google Earth type thing that you could select every layer you want. And then I totally agree with you. We want to know where we can plant trees to sustain that we're sustainable.
And then I also have a separate list of all the trees that Penelec removed, which I don't even like to talk about, because when you add my list with Penelec's list, like, we're not planting as many trees as are being cut down if you count the utilities. And then that's not counting, like, I don't know, the trees that gas companies are taking out, or, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
it's not a lot, or all the trees for our curb ramps. Like, engineering has a list where they've had to cut trees too, but I mean, I don't have all the information, but I have a lot of information, but I don't have a complete list, because streets go out and cut up trees that fell in a storm. They don't tell me where those trees were necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that happens that I'm not capturing, but I'd say I'm capturing, like, I don't know, 65, 70% of it. I'm capturing.
Right. Well, an inventory would capture all that. That person's out there. They're saying what's their, what would see stumps, whatever area that can support growth. And GPS coordinates would definitely be fantastic. Then we're right on top of it rather than an address. Addresses are helpful, but a GPS coordinate is definitely more accurate.
Right. And with cell phones, I mean, it might be a foot or two off, but that's good enough for tree information. Because once you get out in the field to actually do a project, you can just put it in the right spot.
Right. And with that, we could probably get with the utilities, whatever sewer, water, things like that, and even add another layer to evaluate if it's a good location or not.
Yeah,
It'd be
it's
hard to do, but we
challenging.
could build on it if possible.
People do, yeah. I mean, it's frustrating to me, because even I had some drawings made. I had engineering make me some drawings for my tree planting project that I'm working on right now. And so they got the roads and everything ready so I could just say where I wanted the trees to go. But he didn't include any of the utilities. And I'm
Ooh.
like, so it's not even common knowledge that we need to have the utilities shown on a tree planting drawing?
Right, a fire hydrant right where you want to plant a tree. Yeah, not gonna
Yeah.
work.
And so then I mean, so then they did put on some of them, but some of them for our city parks, they don't even know, they don't have them already for some reason. I don't know why. Like, I don't know. I don't know. There's not like this common database where everything, all the information used to go. Every project would gather its own info, and then the new project needs the info, and it's not always brought over from the old project, which is, I don't know, was the word inefficient?
Yeah, well, I wonder like
But we never had GIS capabilities before. And so we're just starting to do that. And so I'm hoping these things will be more efficient, because I'm always telling them you have to have the utilities and you have to have the light poles on all the drawings where trees are going to be planted, because that affects the trees. And even signs, if you know there's signs out there, you need the signs marked,
right,
and the fire hydrants, like, everything that's there needs to be marked.
right. Well, one, I don't know what capability they have, but the call before you dig, the 811, they know where every utility is at because they go and mark it. And I don't know if that information is available to the public. They know where sewer lines, water lines, gas lines, everything's at.
I mean, the city has the ability to find them, but what I'm saying is they don't automatically show up on the park's drawings if somebody pulls up the park to do a new drawing, I don't think. But I
Right.
think they're trying to get them to be layers that turn on and off, but it's just a work in progress. So
Okay.
like, I draw out the drawings by hand, and I can send my drawing to the contractor, but then I'm like, okay, well, should I be embarrassed about this hand drawing on a piece of notebook paper? But my drawing's way more accurate than what I'm able to give, because it has the signs and the curb line. Like, you know what I mean? It has more information. So I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to give him my hand drawings like I always do and not worry about it, because all
Wow.
the information's on my drawing.
Well, another tool that's available too, that we have right now, is the Google Street View. You can go at an intersection and pan around.
So like, I try to have the information for the contractor, like that it's 25 feet from the existing tree to spaced evenly 30 feet apart till the next sign, and then it's 20, like, you know what I mean? Whatever the notes, like my notes, I try to make them as thorough as possible, So if they get out there and somebody pulled the flag or the paint's gone, they can try to figure out what I'm saying. I mean, they can always call me, but I do try to give really accurate notes. So most of the time they can figure it out, but it takes time to make all those notes. You know, it's just where if we had the GIS, if once they get me on GIS, you could just download the trees and then send them the thing, and then it's all right there. You know what I mean? It'd
Yep.
just be so much less time consuming.
Oh, yeah.
But and so that's why I mean, so the plan's exciting too. We're just still in a weird phase where we have the technology, but we're still trying to get it developed. We don't have it all yet set up. We're in a growing phase.
Oh,
We're
yeah, that's
awkward.
why we're here. We got a lot of work to do. And like, if you have an inventory and you get a grant, you need to spend in 6 months, you know where to direct the funds. And I think probably everybody will agree. I think we start an inventory, we should start on the east side. That is the most neglected of the whole city.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely the lower income neighborhoods are more neglected because the people don't have the same resources to know who to call. So like, even if they know their tree's dead, they don't know who to call, or that they even can call somebody. They don't know there's a program that exists to help remove dead trees, where, you know, all the people who have money, they're taxpayers and they know they deserve these services.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's just,
Well,
it's
the other
just,
part is the number of people on the east side, even in the city, that are renters. They don't actually own their homes. They are
Right.
renters. And so if the landlord's not interested, then nobody's calling anybody. So
Yep.
so what is the next step as far as what we would do to conduct the tree inventory?
I'm gonna guess funding, secure funding to get somebody, a contractor.
yeah, and we have a small
Yeah.
amount of money. Like we have 30,000, but see, 30,000 isn't enough to do the inventory. And that's why I thought maybe we could start the plan instead with that money. And then Steve said I think he said there's funding right now for inventories, but I don't know for sure. I need him to, and maybe I'll ask him to suggest, even if he has to suggest an extra time, maybe we can just have like a work session where we talk to Steve and those who can make it just to get information. Like we won't decide any decisions, but we'll just talk to him a little bit more about it.
How
Because-
many?
That would be awesome.
Yeah, because I don't really want to wait till the end of December to talk with him.
Right. I know 30,000 is not gonna do the whole thing, but if we came up with a plan, how many, I don't know this answer, so
I think it'll need 250,000, Paul. That's my number.
right, well, how many wards, we could do it by wards in the city, how many wards are there?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Like
mean, we can split it up.
five or,
in all different ways.
I don't know, anybody know that? I can look it up. Maybe do it by that for the funding and part of the plan, Ward 1, first one to go.
Yeah, and I mean, we have some funding set aside, ARP funding, to remove dead trees in the ARP qualified areas, which are mostly low income areas and underserved areas in the city. And pretty soon we'll have all the dead trees cut down in those areas that we're aware of. And so depending on how much money is set aside for that, it's possible that I can ask to do some of that on an inventory maybe, so we can start replanting trees. Or I was just going to ask to plant trees instead, or to be able to trim trees, because in the lower income neighborhoods, nobody ever has money to trim their tree. And like you just said, Patty, renters can still call me and ask me to plant a tree, and I can try to reach out to landlords and talk them into it. But trimming the tree, I mean, if the landlords don't want to do that, it just doesn't get done because the city is unable to provide that service at all. And so I'd really like to be able to use the money to trim some of these trees for people, because they're too low into the street, they're over the sidewalks, you know, like when they're those type of issues. Or if there's even just a few dead limbs and the whole tree doesn't need cut down, they're basically waiting for them to fall, which is dangerous. They need cut out to make the neighborhood safe. The dead limbs should be cut out like every 5 years or something.
Could we make the argument then, and I don't know, but could we make the argument that, I don't know, a 10-block area or 20-block area, whatever, where trees have been removed, that we need to have an inventory, assess the safety of them, and we could use some of the funding for that because we're assessing the safety and the need for replacement and that sort of thing. And at least maybe we would get that section done and just work on that to start with as we research additional funding. And while I'm on unmuted, I'm going to say yes, if we could meet with the county forester prior to the end of December, because again, it's going to be 2 days after Christmas. Who knows what people's schedule is going to be like. And December's crazy, but what month isn't? I say let's see if we can get a meeting with him.
Okay, when I hear back from Steve, I'll just ask him to email us, or I'll just send him another email in the meantime about to let us know sometimes he's available where he could chat with some of us on Zoom. And I asked him about that too, and he said he's definitely willing to do that too if he couldn't make it to our meeting. Like
Okay.
he's very willing to work with us. And even if we broke it into smaller projects, Steve might be able to help us with some of that too. And like Mark has said, he'd help with an inventory. Like when Margarita was part of the Sisters of St. Joseph Network on the east side, they actually hired Mark to do an inventory of just their neighborhood. But I don't know, the way I'd have to just sit down with Mark and talk to him about it for him to explain it to me, because it's a different format than the way I do inventories. And so it wasn't easy for me to just glance at it and understand it.
Yes, so Sarah, there's 6 wards in the city of Erie. I just curious on that maybe we could start with that for breaking things out for inventory.
Yeah, there's lots of different ways we could break it out. Yeah. Or priority neighborhoods or whatever we want to do.
Do I recall that one of the plans for like downtown Erie, and I can't remember what name it was, didn't somebody do part of a tree inventory for actual downtown?
The Western
Am
Pennsylvania Conservancy has done inventories of the trees downtown, but I don't have access to that. But I could ask them for it. But again, it's like compiling all this information, and that information is going to be over 5 years old now. So that's the thing about an inventory. As soon as it's completed, it's old because a tree can be
Yeah, but
so I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's
All
not
right.
that useful. That information wouldn't be useful. I mean, if they could send it to us in Excel files, we could upload that into the GIS, the new system too, if we get it. And some of the information I have, and some of it I don't, because I conduct the inventories with them and give them all the information, but they don't always follow up with me with all the information back. So I have to reach out and request to them my missing pieces. And then also some of it was in the iTree stuff. And I think it's been converted to the new iTree system, but I haven't started using the new system yet. Have you, John, at all with the relief?
We're just we're just looking at it, but that's not something I do. So
Yeah.
Our tree recording process is simplified because K10 now they changed their rules, and all we have to do is report, because so many of our trees are planted by the people that we give them to. We have to report, you know, who got them and where they said they were going to plant them. That's all we have to report. We don't have to go in the field and give them an actual location. So, but yeah, Aaron was saying that they're working with the new version of the iTree or whatever it is.
And so what that is, Patty, if you're not familiar with, it's the state's, it's like the state GIS system that's free to public entities to use. If you like, just plain public people can go on there and see where all the trees are located. They can't upload new trees or anything, but as the city of Erie or as Relief, they're I don't know, an official group that can enter in new trees and edit the data. And it was called, what it was, it PAI tree or something, but it's sort of funded through DCNR. So, and it was the new iPhones, it wasn't compatible with the new iPhones a couple years, like, I don't know which ones, maybe the 12 i12 or something. And so they had to upgrade the whole system. And so for a year or two, we weren't able to use it, but now we're able to use it again. But that sort of made people feel hesitant about using it, because if every couple of years we're not going to be able to use it, then what's the point? Then we need a different system to put all our data in. So I mean, it's just one of those things, but it's free, so it's nice, and anybody can use it who's an approved user to go out. Like, I could give you guys all my password as the city arborist, since you're on the official committee, and you can go out and upload like just the trees on your street and get them in there. You know what I'm saying? And what's cool, but what makes the iTree program really cool and worthwhile is that once the tree is on there, it calculates all the environmental benefits of the tree. So it calculates the amount of carbon the tree's absorbing, and like the stormwater savings, and like air conditioning and cooling costs. And so that's really useful information to generate reports on how much of an impact all the trees we're planting are making. And if we cut these trees down, what are we losing? And so you have to enter in the specific species and the size of the tree, because obviously a 2-inch little red maple you just plant is going to be providing less benefits than a 36-inch red oak that's been growing. And because different trees grow at different rates and absorb nutrients different, it's pretty cool that it can create those environmental calculations. And that's what really makes the program awesome to use, is knowing the so you can click on any individual tree and it'll tell you the environmental benefits for that tree. And or you could do like the whole city of Erie or all of Erie County, like, so it's really cool, that sort of information. And then to be able to share that with like the mayor or city council, like that's the public, like that's really nice information. But it would be a whole separate program that we have to keep updated. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it can
Yeah,
also
and we just need to
import
choose
Excel
one.
files. What was that, Patty?
I'm sorry. It sounds like we may need to just choose one at this point. I mean, the other one sounds groovy, but you're
Groovy.
right. You know, the sustainability of that particular program, does that work or not? So,
Yeah, it'd be nice
anyway.
if we could learn how to make those calculations ourselves and then add it into our program. And so I think there's got to be information out there on how to make those calculations. So maybe we could incorporate it into our program too, and then it could still provide that information. I just haven't had a chance to look into it.
Yeah, okay. And I'm sorry, but I am going to need to go. Thank you all so much for attending. It sounds like we've got at least some next steps for us to take. And so I will think of people that may be beneficial to add to this group, and look forward to hearing about a meeting maybe with Steve. Got December 27th and then January 2nd on my calendar. So have a good Thanksgiving.
You too, Patty.
Thanks,
You too,
Patty.
Patty. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
So our next meeting, we're gonna do a Zoom meeting. I can't remember what we decided about December because the proximity to Christmas.
I don't think we've decided yet.
Oh, okay.
It's supposed to be December 27th at noon.
Okay.
It's our last Wednesday noon meeting. It would be our last Wednesday noon meeting.
Right.
So we can either do it by Zoom or we could do it in person, whatever.
I'm good with whatever.
Yeah, I'm good with whatever.
Actually, I thought this was pretty good. I could hear, I could see.
Well, why don't we just do it Zoom then?
Yeah, I think so. You know, it's December, for one thing.
Yeah, if the weather's bad or something. And
Right.
if people are traveling that week between Christmas and New Year's, they still might be able to participate. Okay. So when Mark said he was willing to still be on the committee, did you ask him why he hasn't made it to any of the meetings? Or did
It's
you
the
not?
timing, the timing. He's very happy that we would change it to an end of day meeting.
Oh, okay, good. Well, then that's good.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely good for him. He liked that.
Okay, perfect. All right, and then let me check see if Armando responded to me real quick. No, he did not.
Hmm.
So
He's
I'll still try to get a hold of him too. Then I'll try to get a hold of him too, John. I haven't tried,
Okay,
and he's yeah, I'll try to get a hold of. I've seen him every once in a while. I see him, so if I see him, I'll also remember. I'll try to remember to ask him when I see him.
yeah, if I see him, I will ask him too. I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we're all in agreement. Our priorities are a plan and an inventory, in not necessarily in that order, an inventory and a plan, perhaps. But sorry, somebody's calling me up there. And meeting with Steve is going to move us in that direction. And I don't know what else we need to do. Anything else we need to talk about today?
I don't think so. Did you have anything?
Anything else, Paul?
I don't have anything. I think we got excited here on this meeting. I like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, don't eat too much turkey.
Yes, have a happy Thanksgiving, you too.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
All right. See you soon.
I'll send out the notes.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Bye. Sure, bye.